on your relationship with the other.
We have some hands up before we get there. Stefan asks, is unification in Kabbalah actually to be achieved one day? Is that the Messianic age, or is it never to be achieved?
The unification, I think, is something that comes and goes. I think there are moments of wholeness, there are moments of perfection, there are moments of attainment, and then you could say Messiah is seen as, Yom Shekulo Shabbat, the total Sabbath. Right now we have Shabbat one day a week. When Mashiach comes, it will be full-time Shabbat, 24/7. So full unification you might see as something messianic, but getting a taste of the oneness is something we can do now through meditation, through prayer, through acting in holy ways. You get a taste of that oneness, both on a personal level and imagining God's becoming whole, God's becoming one, which, as we said, is dependent on how we act.
So we have Shira and Harvey had a question, so we'll ask to unmute and see what question they have.
Great.
Yes, Shabbat Shalom. There's a question of cleaving, and from what aspect in myself does that cleaving issue? Is it an active cleaving, reaching out to grasp hold of, or is it a passive cleaving, opening myself with an inner attention to holiness? How is that cleaving best activated?
Yeah, it's a great question. That word davak, it's the Hebrew davak, it sounds very active and forceful and powerful. And the English, to cling or to cleave, sounds like something that you need to do actively, not just to sit there and wait for it to happen. But what you say about being receptive, being open, is vital here. I think there's an active and a passive quality to this experience of devekut. It sounds active, but you really have to let go for it to happen. You have to open yourself. You have to be receptive. You have to open your heart. So I think there's a preparation of openness, of letting go, and then something comes to you, or you are empowered. You're empowered and able to act in a mindful way. Really, when we're talking about mysticism and spirituality, I think awareness is perhaps the most important element. So there's an active stance, an active role that you can fulfill or strive to fulfill, and there's an openness and awareness that will allow for the connection.
Great question. Cheryl has a question. So Cheryl, I'm muting you.
Hey, Danny.
Hi.
Am I on? Yeah, I guess I'm muted. In the Zohar, it seems that most of it has a lot to do with both the feminine and the masculine side and joining. But then you leave the Zohar and you get into rabbinical Judaism, Messianic Judaism, and there isn't very much about the feminine side of things or the role of women in Judaism so much. It's very much a patriarchal, masculine push through of everything. How is that one of the reasons that maybe the Zohar is not terribly popular in mainstream Judaism?
And there's an openness. It's such an interesting phrase, mainstream Judaism. And I mentioned it before myself. We're talking about Shabbat and Kabbalah Shabbat, right?
Cheryl has a question.
It's interesting. Arthur Green, I'm sure many of you know of his name and his work. He looked into this, and it's interesting. The first time you ever had that phrase, mainstream Judaism, it's in a German book in the 19th century, and that book is an attack on what? On Kabbalah. Mainstream Judaism is trying to exclude what might be uncomfortable, might be challenging to the normal presentation of Judaism. So I think there is a tension between what the Kabbalah suggests and the picture you would find if you open a typical page of the Bible, a typical page of the Talmud. As we've said, you don't find God described in feminine ways in many Jewish texts. And that's one of the most radical differences between the Zohar and the Talmud or the Bible. So I would say that is one of the great contributions of the Kabbalah, to insist that God is equally male and female. Ultimately, God is beyond all gender. Okay? Ein Sof is not male or female. The infinite is beyond gender. But if we're going to talk about God, God has been talked about for so long in purely masculine terms. I think it's important to balance the masculine with the feminine, and that's the great contribution of the Zohar. I would say that in the last, 30 years, that critique of Judaism has become very widespread, and I'm sure you're aware, maybe more aware than I am, of Jewish feminism and Jewish feminists, and how Judaism has changed over the past few decades, and I think one of
John,
the
what
changes
you really want is somebody to listen to. So put it in the chat.
to criticize the purely
Don't get angry,
masculine
John. That's the
description
consult.
of God. So I think the Zohar.
Don't be angry, John. That's the consultation. Don't road rage. Look at your PTR. You like cars. I bet you're a road rager. You're here on the highway, raging on the road in that incredible Chevy Corvette.
Is valuable in that sense to look at a holy text of Judaism, to look at one of the holiest texts of Judaism, does celebrate the feminine within God. I'm not saying that people have to follow the Zohar. Much of the Zohar is very difficult and challenging, but the great gift of the Zohar is that here is someone 700 years ago. All right, the Zohar was composed in Spain, was largely composed in Spain in the 13th century. So here's a book written 700 years ago that gives equal weight to the feminine. I would say that there's more about Shekhinah in the Zohar than you would find it in any other Jewish text. And that's something, that revolution is still going on. People might say we've made a lot of progress. People would say we've made hardly any progress. But things are changing. Things have changed. And that, to my mind, is one of the great gifts of the mystical tradition.
So last few things before we call the session. Rob wants to know about he wants to know what's the point about above the white light hovers a concealed light encompassing it. It seems like almost an unnecessary addition to the discussion we had. We focused on the two lights. They were the main lights, and all of a sudden you have this reference. It doesn't really go anywhere. So,
That's very interesting. I'm really glad you raised that. It's really typical of the Zohar. The Zohar proceeds, it begins with this very difficult imagery, and remember, it doesn't name Shekhinah, it doesn't name Tiferet. Finally, after we work through a couple pages of that, okay, now I finally get it. The blue light is Shekhinah. Right, with my notes and my explanation, now I understand the blue light is Shekhinah, the white light is Tiferet. We finally got it. And this is typical of the Zohar. You think you got it? Well, there's another level. I'm not going to go into it. I'm not going to say much about it, but you should know there's something more. So I think it's kind of saying, don't think that you have the whole package. There's something further to explore. There's something yet to be discovered, and it leaves you hanging. You could like that or dislike that, but it's very characteristic of the Zohar not to end a passage where it's finally all clear and figured out. There's still something mysterious. In fact, I think it's even, let me just pull it up one more second. It's even worded that way, right? Above the white light hovers a concealed light encompassing it. Here abides supernal mystery. Okay, so there's still mystery. Even though it's now been explained, there's still mystery. You will discover all. Go back to the candle. Go back, light the candle, start again, see where it leads you, but leaving open that, giving us that sense of we're only beginning the journey. We haven't completed the journey.
And then, are there any other meditation-like techniques that are in Zohar that we can look forward to learning about?
There are, a good number of meditative techniques. The fullest description of them is in a book by Aryeh Kaplan, Kaplan. Meditation and Kabbalah. He has a more popular book just called Jewish Meditation, but Meditation and Kabbalah draws on dozens or more techniques from Zohar and other books of Kabbalah. Many of them have to do with the letters of the divine name or different divine names. Ayin, focusing on no-thingness. We've discovered that we've explored that theme of Aleph Yud Nun, of nothingness. Meditating on Ayin, trying to melt into the oneness or the no-thingness. But there are not many in the Zohar itself. I suggest you look at the Kaplan for that.
So thank you so much. We were talking before the program, your new book about, you're in final proofing of your new book about becoming Elijah, being published by Yale University Press in the spring. So we're looking forward to that coming out, maybe having you back for a series about Elijah. And on behalf of CSP, I want to thank you for taking us to places we ordinarily probably wouldn't go or shouldn't go by ourselves. I know some of you do, and I know that I'll mention that Professor Matt has an ongoing class. When you do your class, like how often do you meet? Like what is a...
It's once a week, basically. We're going to start again in October.
How long?
The course in English is Tuesday evening.
And how long does it last?
It's about an hour and a half. I teach for an hour in the discussion. We have we have 6 weekly meetings. Then we take a break for a couple weeks and do another series of 6, and it's ongoing in that way. People can begin at the beginning with the recording, or they can jump in with the current session. They can see the description that you'll send out, and people can contact me if they need to discuss it further.
Right. I will forward you all the follow-up to this class with a link to how to sign up if you're interested in studying more Kabbalah. And thank you again, Professor Matt. I want to thank Rabbi Spitz. I saw him on here as well. Rabbi Spitz is one of the main people that introduced CSP to Professor Matt. And I know you were scheduled to come to Orange County 17 months ago.
Okay. Hope you have a great day. This has been more Zohar, Rabboni Shalom. This has been an Edmund Dakin, Adrian Ditt, and production. Health.